When we found out about Ben's disability, it was basically in the first hour after he was born. He had an enlarged liver and spleen, his head was too small, his blood platelet count was too low, and he may not live the day. Once you're told that, you can't hear anything else.
On its own, getting older is tough. But when you're aging with dependents, many other considerations need to be taken. As caregivers age, they begin to reach the physical, psychological, and emotional limits of what they can actually do. And with that comes the weight of having to pass on the responsibility of care to someone new, and to plan for the time when the primary caregiver is no longer there. Difficult conversations must take place, and tough decisions need to be made in order to ensure a smooth transition and continuity of care.
Ben is unable to physically move on his own. Without support, he can't do the basics of feeding, clothing, dressing himself. If Ben's waking up in the morning and I don't feel good, it's like, Ben, I can't do it today, we'll have to do it tomorrow. Well, Ben's got to get up and he's got to get dressed and he's got to go through all the other things that everybody else does. So somebody has to do it.
What is at the end of a rainbow?
What is it?
The letter W.
When we have caregivers who are caring for their child, what we notice is that there's ages and stages. When you're a parent in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, parenting for a child with a physical disability, you sort of have a status quo that's there. This is your routine, this is what you do, you're capable, they're capable, and we're working in a partnership. But as the aging process is happening for both of them, that's where we start to see families in a little bit more of distress because they want to do well by their child. They want to support them, but they themselves have started to reach a bit of a physical limit of what they can offer.
His life over the last 30 years have been a roller coaster. The early years were the worst of the worst. The fact that we were younger, we were able to deal with that in a way where you just kind of pushed through and did whatever you needed to do. As you get older, your desire to help doesn't go away, but your physical ability does. What I have found is from 30 years of caregiving and lifting and pulling and tugging and doing things, my back is saying, you can't do this anymore. Handing over the responsibility to somebody else, I'm okay with. It's all about what's best for Ben. But when I want to do something, I want to do something. And so if I'm physically unable to do it, that's very frustrating. So from an emotional point of view, it's more frustration than anything else.
And where their hands touched and where their feet fell, the feast came into existence.
The idea of bringing in extra help when a caregiver has reached a physical limit of what they can offer is very polarizing for the caregiver, because on the one hand, they've powered through very difficult situations for a long time and have always found the way to make it work. They always have. Except that this is one of the things that we just can't power through in life. When we're physically unable to lift somebody, we're now putting ourselves at risk. All of a sudden now I'm going to need care.
15 years ago, I went through cancer, and it was a wake-up call to say we really need to figure out what the next 10, 20, 30 years are going to look like. Ben requires 24-hour care. It's just who's going to provide that care. Obviously, Jan and I won't live forever. It's not something we think about every day. It's not something we even like to talk about, but it's going to happen. We've had some very, I guess, not troubling conversations, but necessary ones we can't just hope it doesn't happen, because it will. And that's why we're so focused on getting the right people involved in his life now.
Aging will continue. That process will continue. We can't stop it. It's a good idea to bring in a caregiver at this stage, because your loved one can now start to attach to this caregiver and start to form a relationship with this caregiver, as opposed to you have a fall, you're in hospital, a stranger's going to walk in and have to do this, and there's no relationship there. It's very scary for the concerned person. Bringing them on your team of caregivers is really the ideal way to do it.
It's not a failure for you to raise your hand. even though that's what it feels like. It feels like I've must have failed somehow, or I feel guilty that I need to have someone else help me with something. It's not. If you can turn it around and say, it's really me declaring that I want the best possible support, that's what I'm raising my hand for. If people can have that mindset earlier, great things are going to happen.
Caregiving is not a solo act. It is a shared responsibility among family and the community at large. Approaching it and planning in that way can help to strengthen the care and support our loved ones need.